2 days ago, the roads were shut behind me, and I find myself isolated within the West Aussie goldfields, well into my second day along a very wet, muddy and cold Holland track. Usually by now I'd be close to the end of the 300-kilometre track. However, due to these conditions, I've yet to reach the halfway mark, and with the daylight fading, I'm faced with a long drive into the night. Daylight is fading. To avoid losing any more time, I'm strategically picking and choosing the best driving lines when possible, which means zigzagging.
Well, that wasn't meant to happen. A little bit difficult to explain. I wanted to avoid this track was further up. It's a bit, tried to cross over and then ended up here.
Thankfully, no damage to both tree and vehicle. I questioned that I even contacted the tree.
I don't want to go in that hole over there. Yeah! Man, it seemed like a silly predicament to get myself into. I am avoiding most of those holes because I know what mud does to your driveline and everything else. I tend to straddle the holes when I can, especially if there's like a big hole, or I'll try and cross over the best way I can.
Into the night I continue. I'm definitely lacking lights behind and to my sides. However, forward-facing lights, these 7-inch LEDs are seriously impressive. Best $500 I spent before leaving home.
Bit of time has passed since last. You know, all these mud holes I had to negotiate around, still a fair distance from where I'd ideally like to be right now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull up trackside steak, I reckon. Let's have that. Roadside steak. By the time I get to camp, you know, it's too late to bloody get stuff out, so let's just do it here.
This may seem like a strange activity. However, those who travel the deserts or the long tracks less travelled, this activity is common.
The best way to do this is to use sticks about that size, you know, about the size of your fingers or your thumbs, because they'll burn down real quick. We're not here to start a massive fire. We just want a bed of coals so we can just quickly cook our steaks on. A roadside cowboy steaks. Straight on the coals.
Cooking a meal in the middle of a track, in the middle of a night, in the middle of nowhere, really adds to the feeling of the isolation, especially knowing that the access road at both ends is likely still shut. Could be several days yet before I see anyone.
That should be about enough, I think. We'll just have a quick look. A bit hard to see out there. Oh, you know what? I actually overcooked them. Still good. It's better than undercooked, right?
It's not a steak sandwich without some toast.
This won't take long at all. So you've got to be ready when it's spread. Beautiful. Perfect. Nice crunch.
Toast, steak, mustard, barbecue, cheese, mayo.
This is real roadside steak sandwich happening here, I'm telling you.
And slaw. Is that my tummy or your tummy?
Now I don't have to stuff around with food when I get to camp. Like I was never here.
In darkness, we find camp.
Shout out to Harry from Fire to Fork. Thanks for the coffee, mate. It's quite delicious too. I've woken up in a misty forest. This is actually considered a forest. It's the woodlands. The WA woodlands is actually the size of England. So if you go wandering off aimlessly out here, especially at night, you're gonna get lost. Well, even during the day, everything looks the same. Chaotic bush, no laws, the way the plants are growing here. I've even had to adapt to that. It's all like just chaotically grown. Chop that off a salmon gum that had de-limbed itself. That's another thing you've got to be wary of out here. Widow makers, so never camp under a salmon gum. Never camp under a big tree in general. Last night I decided to place my swag right next to the fire. It's like 4 degrees outside. Not right here. And they kept me nice and warm to begin with. Then at about 4 a.m.
Speaking of cold and wet, last night having to navigate more of these holes in the dark and checking the depth made my boots, socks and pants a bit wet. That said, they all dried next to the fire last night, but I left them outside overnight, which means the hours I gained last night, I've lost this morning drying my clothes.
This 76 series has taken me down a pretty fun path, I've got to say. Trying to keep this thing as minimal and as relatable to you as possible. Look, there are some things that are on there that probably aren't that relatable, like wrapping the whole car and with it maybe lifting it to the height it's at. But there are some things in this vehicle that are very affordable, and I've been trying them out for the past 4 to 6 months, thereabouts. Now, I haven't hidden it from you, but I've not drawn attention to it. I'm also curious to know how well my new table setup works. Table version 2. My mate Sean, Mission 4x4, made this. Latches onto the top here, just like a compression latch. The cool thing is with this one, extendable table that can come out. I've added some foam to this cavity. Before, the cavity would have looked similar to that. Stainless steel, wooden top for chopping things. Let's get into it. The problem I had last time was there wasn't enough space. The gas bottle was off the side because I used this humongous cooker. Nah, this cooker's too bloody big. I've still got the same cooker. Moment of truth. Look at that. Of course, I could just cook on a fire, but I wanted to test this out. First time I've put anything on this, and we've been in the bush for 4 or 5 days now.
Time to reveal more of the affordable gear I've been using. No, it's not my $120 awning. That's the temporary thing. It's the portable battery system I've been running everything on.
This is it right here, folks. 135 amp hours of lithium powered. Now, I've had it for 6 months, I believe, and the reason why I've sort of kept it out of sight is because I like to try things out before I talk about it. This works for my needs. I would initially describe this as entry gear, but it's mid-range gear, I'd say. The other reason why I've kind of kept it out of sight too is because the way it's wired up, it needs to be sorted out. You will, however, get all this stuff coming out the side, but that's because it's a portable box. You know, I can unplug any of these. This is a solar input. When I first put this in, I only had the box itself, and I was running power off this through Anderson plugs. I then later added this part to it, which is the DC-DC charger, wired it up to the alternator, comes back here, and then I added the brains for the whole system. It's up in the gull wing, but that food's burning. Let's get back to the food.
If the brand seems familiar, it's because the lights are also hardcore.
Yummy. Was the table a success? All in all, spot on. It's tripled the functionality of this table.
Time to get moving and hopefully punch out some distance today.
T-shirt weather today. I understand there are people from around the world who watch this channel and they would laugh at the fact that us Aussies sometimes complain that, not complain, but we're like, oh, we're cold, it's 4 degrees, it's 5 degrees. And yes, I understand that you do get proper winters in other countries. The thing is though, when you're acclimatized to the Australian weather, we're not dressed for it, we're not prepared for it. We don't have like thermal underwear and all this stuff. We can get it, but it's just not something that I'm even familiar with. I don't even know what stuff is good, what's not. So we just take it on. I mean, right now we're in a t-shirt, but tonight it's gonna get bloody cold again. Anyway, just putting that out there. Could get the saw. I don't want to do that. I want to use my new recovery points. Been looking for an excuse. No one's bogged, but hey, and a heck of a lot less effort. Yeah, that will do the job. If you're going to do this, do it nice and slow, because there'll be a lot of tension that'll get released all of a sudden, which means any debris lying in front of it, get rid of that. Make sure no one's standing on that side or anywhere near it really. And it doesn't mean that something's not going to come back at the car either. So I'm going to take it real gentle. We have tension. Easy as that. I can drive around this one, but someone else might be coming around the bend pretty fast. It's kind of on a blindish end. Might as well remove it.
My good deed of the day is complete.
Oh. Didn't expect that. It was shallow, and then all of a sudden I just spotted this really, really cool looking salmon gum. Check this out. It's almost like they're matching. That one's got the divots, that one's got the bumps. That is so bizarre. There's actually a few out here that look like they have a face, in particular at night, because the way your lights are hitting the tree. Let me get a photo and we'll keep going. You know, there's a big difference between this wheelbase and having a lighter vehicle. Like that makes a huge difference compared to what I'm used to. Now I wonder what the Troopy will do, because that's a different wheelbase again. So there's like 3 different wheelbases. The 79's got like the biggest one. This wheelbase on this car is 300mm shorter. It's so much easier to drive around. Anyone who drives a wagon can probably relate to that.
Things are still slow going with plenty of mud around, but I do feel like I'm making better progress than previous days.
You know what's interesting? I actually found myself spending way more time in high range in this automatic as opposed to manual. So I've done this track countless times, probably 10, 15, I don't know. And I always used to find myself in low range most of the time. Auto life, I guess. I might not have the sound of a V8, but I've got the turbo still.
Almost time to show off the last of my recent improvements.
What a cracker of a rock. Last time I spoke about my gull-wing setup and it wasn't done. Well, let me introduce you to Cafe 76. Behold. Voila. So the whole bottom part is cafe and the whole top part is just power. As a water solution, improvement wise, just going back to my old 20-litre Jerry, forgot to put a bloody hose clamp on it. It has worked pretty well. Although, I'm getting wet carpets on the opposite side. See, last time I had this other black tank. Noticed, needs improving, will improve. The tap really sucks, it just kept leaking. And that was constantly leaking on that side. Well, that was a bit of a muddy adventure I didn't expect, but it handled well. So did everything work? Was it better than before? Was it improved? Yes, it was, 100%. All there is to do now is to get that extended tank in the back, get a winch in the front, maybe change that awning, and that's it. Let's just go and use it. I'm not going to do anything else to it. I don't want to. I don't want it too heavy. So on that note, I do have a 2-day drive, which I've got 1 day to do in, if that made sense. So I've got to go.